All right, so the Bears, the Jets took the coaches from the Lions, and you know, I think they're actually. I actually think that those were the right moves. Different reasons for each one, of course. Touching on the Lions, I guess for a bit is the fact that like they lose both coordinators, and basically everybody wondered if they missed their window. I don't necessarily think they missed a window just because the NFC is not as heavy as I think the AFC is. I was like the AFC. I was like you guys. I think you got a lot more people in there battling at the top, whereas the NFC I think got a lot of people battling in the middle. To where like so the Lions, I was like you got the Eagles. The Commanders would be better next year. I was like the Cowboys should be average. Um, I was like the Bucks. The Bucks will still be in the same spot. The Falcons should get better. Uh, I was like, of course, that's their own division. The Vikings, we'll see. They might, I think, they might regress to a bit, especially if they lose Flores or they lose Darnold. I was like, they might regress to a little bit lower means. And I was like, the Rams, Seahawks, all that stuff, they beat each other up to where they're just sort of regular. So I was like, I think they'll still be fine. I think they'll still be pretty much at the top of the division. You got to imagine that they get a lot of people back in this case scenario, that they get enough people back with Hutchins. They'll still have Zarius Smith and stuff like that. I was like, Branch is still there. I was like, Davis will be back. So I was like, I think they'll be fine. I was like, but the thing is that they should be scared of because they lost both of their coordinators is to have a Philadelphia Eagles season from 2023-24. Is the fact that when they lost both of their coordinators, that team did not really know what to do on either side of the ball, and their talent was able to get them through, just like how the Lions also got really good talent. But it was just not there, and also coming off a really like heartbreak loss as well too, because I was like they lost I think in the Super Bowl and then came into the season, whereas here you felt like even though you had the injury, it still felt like a storytell type of thing where like they just been able to persevere over that. They were still able to get the number one seed and the bye, and then all the bottom fell out. And you also got to think too, with I was like not only with the like the defensive coordinator going that did such a great job with having his team decimated, is the offense where it's like okay, it's like yeah you'll keep some of those plays because they're probably going to stay in house of like offensive calling, but does it change of how Jared Goff plays? We see sort of what happened to Hurts when you sort of changed up who his OC is. Does Goff change? I was like, guess what? You wanna say Goff and him being a veteran and stuff like that, but that game with the I was like that playoff game also is not surprising because it also sounds like a Goff game at the same time. He can have one of those. How does this team operate as far as play calling and things like of that nature? So I think I was like, there might be a little hiccup in it, but I was like, I think they'll still be fine. I think they'll still be basically one of the top three teams in the NFC. Now going to that, I was like Ben Johnson going to the Bears, Aaron Glenn going to the Jets, and I was like I believe more. I was like I feel like in Aaron Glenn being a coach for the Jets than Ben Johnson to the Bears, but I think that the expectations for each team is also different. So with the Bears, it's Ben Johnson, and he basically has the task of Caleb Williams. That's basically his whole task. I think sometimes we overstate how you need an offensive coach to be with this quarterback in order to make sure that he prosper and whatever. When it's like, yeah, you also got the rest of the team. So it's like if Caleb Williams look good and they still stink, then what? I was like, they shouldn't because I was like, they got good defensive pieces and stuff like that, and the offense got it. I was like, if not better weapons than the Lions, what is different, and I think what would really be the challenge is like, yeah, you're going to talk about the challenge of like, oh, you need to get Caleb Williams to CD throw, get him in rhythm. Was like how it does do with pressure. But I was like, that offensive line is going to be a big difference. Like you're going to have to get that offensive line really going in order to have anything of that same type of way that you did with the Lions. Like that would really what make the Lions great is that their offensive line is so good that it gives somebody stationary like Jared Goff to go through his progressions and also pass the ball. Whereas like Caleb Williams, you gotta fix that where he could go through his progression, get his feet settled, not want to go all wind whirl of trying to make the pass, while also worried about why sometimes he also has to do that in some cases because that offensive line is trash. So I was like, and I was like, I do think that while you would think that he doesn't have, I was like, that's all he got to figure out, and that so it's like as long as he figure out Caleb, I was like, which will be a win for the I was like, which will be a win for him. I don't think that the same expectations of that is the same necessarily with the Jets, and by that I mean like you gotta win some of these games. Like people look at this roster and they're like, we should not be picking in like the top 10 of picks. Like we should be a team that should be over here fighting, if not getting a wild card spot. And I was like, yes, it is going to be tough because you still got Detroit Lions, and I was like, I don't think the Vikings are going to fall from grace that in that type of way if they keep everything status quo. But you are going to basically need to also win the game. So I was like, when it comes to also calling timeouts and all this other stuff, I was like, look, as long as he can sort of do that, people are probably going to say he's already doing a better job than Eberflus. But I was like, but this is not a fan base, and this is also not a team that is being like, oh, we are a young team in that type of way. I was like, no, you got too many people on that team that's like, we should be over here doing playoffs. I was like, you was close to the playoff with Fields. I was like, and you really wasn't that. I was like, with the Bears. And to be honest, I was like, while I know that play against the Commanders changed their season, they also won like 2 games in the first couple of weeks that they should not have won, but the defense came up big. So I was like, I think he has a harder challenge with that team than it sort of seems. And also I was like, not that I'm wary of like whoever we call like this innovative offensive good genius type of person, but I just think that the expectations are going to be high just because of what you've seen him do with the Lions. I was like, don't think that you're going to come to the Bears and be like, now we're going to do some of them trick plays. I was like, first of all, it took a couple seasons to even get to that point that Ben Johnson was even doing some of those plays. I was like, but also at the same time, I was like, don't think that you're going to. First of all, don't think you're going to see any of that, and also, how much of this is that? Because I was like, don't get me wrong. At time, I was like, he has so many good weapons. And I'm like, you got really good weapons with Swift, Dumaze, Moore, and Allen that you can do a lot of that. I was like, a commit and stuff that you can do some of these things, but at the same time, I was like, they allowed the weapons allowed you to do some of this stuff to where it's like. Because I was like, people still sort of like they were high scoring offense, but I was like, you would see moments where it's like they couldn't do nothing, and then all of a sudden they had to persevere and get the ball rolling. But I was like, I don't know about him necessarily being. I was like a coach more than Glenn. I was like, it is always just sort of. I'm just more trepidatious about it when you come from the offensive side. Now on the end of Aaron Glenn, I was like, the reason I feel a little bit better about this one is one, I feel like the Jets always stay with a defensive coach, and I was like, I just sort of feel like the Jets now could sort of just like the season happened, they was garbage, it didn't go the way that it needed to be, but I think that now everything can sort of reset and chill. I don't think he had the same pressure of being like, we need to go and make the playoffs. I think at this moment you really just want to try to see, can we be second in the division? Can we just be? We can't have New England all of a sudden pop up with their quarterback and stuff like that. The Dolphins is there, and I was like, once they sort of get like back healthy with some of their players, it's like, can we? Kind of like, we got too much on this team to basically not be in like competition to be second or whatever. But I don't think there's that necessarily that build of like you need to win kind of thing with Aaron Glenn. And also I was like, I also feel like he was able to do so much more with what he had in a way that Ben Johnson's is different. That I was like, this team had enough on defense already that I think that he can already just get them back straight. That I was like, but you got too much talent on this team. You still got everybody pretty much young as well. I was like, they're gonna have to figure out the offensive line because a lot of them dudes is old or whatever. They got to figure out how they want to go with the quarterback position. But to me, I was like, I think it's a lot easier. I was like, he got to go find his general manager, and I was like, so it's a reversal. But I was like, I think pretty much this team will be fine. I was like, he's going to get some people from the Lions. I was like, I was like from that defense, like free agents, like any other team to come over there, and so that'll help. Cause I was like, you always find a job with somebody you had success with or whatever. Whereas like Ben Johnson, that team is basically your team. That's what you got. I was like, whereas like Glenn will grab some of them people with him. But I was like, I think his situation is a lot better to deal with. I know you're like, but Aaron Rodgers there, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, but I was like, I think now I was like, I feel a lot. For some reason, I feel a lot better about keeping Aaron Rodgers just go around because I was like, one, he'll have a second year off his Achilles. We always see that first year Achilles, everybody's sort of like not themselves. So give him we'll give him a second year where he's actually healthier. He finished off the season a lot better than what we sort of seen. I was like, he's still there with stuff. So I was like, I really think you got to figure out the offense in general than Aaron Rodgers. But also, it does give you some leeway where it's like, there's not going to be a quarterback, I feel like, in the first round that you were going to snag. But I was like, maybe you get somebody in the second round, and I was like, have them in waiting or whatever, whoever that might be. I was like, I don't know, I was like, I don't know who's all going to come out or whatever. I was like, Monroe or something like that. But I was like, he's going to do what defensive coordinators do, which you might need to, where you're going to run the ball. They got Breece Hall and Allen there, so I was like, you got two young dudes that's on young rookie contracts. I was like, Garrett Wilson, I was like, I don't think you have to pay him now as well, but I was like, if you also paid him, it's also not going to hurt. I'll bring back Devontae Adams back or whatever. I was like, he's still got a contract that they get. I think it's like, it's not guaranteed, so they could cut him if they want to, but I was like, go ahead and keep him. Why not just have two receivers? I was like, but you get that offensive line better. I was like, I think you're fine. That defense, I was like, it just needs more depth. I was like, you got Sauce Gardner. I was like, you got Reed. You got enough decent players with Mosley and I was like Quentin Williams and his brother there. I was like, you got enough pieces there I was like, it just needed stability. That's all it was. It was stability. Cause I was like, and they was close in a lot of them games. That's where you needed what the Aaron Rodgers before the Achilles that you was banking on, and that defense before this past year that you was banking on. And I was like, I think they'll be able to fill out those gaps. But I was like, I think that he already shown that if he could do that with less, that he can go ahead and he can get through this year. And depending on how the Aaron Rodgers played, I feel like will dictate what type of expectations he's got. They got Aaron Rodgers there, you're at least trying to get to the playoffs. I was like, no more Super Bowl talk, all that throw it out the window, gone. I was like playoffs. Aaron Rodgers not there. Hey, then you get a clean slate. You just want to see fight in the team. Whatever. But I think this is one of the few times I was like, I feel like for different reasons they got the coach that the team needed, and also I feel like the fan base needed. Because I was like, I feel like with Glenn, I was like, you're not going to get the rambunctiousness of like Rex Ryan, who everybody was talking about, but I think that you'll get the same type of mentality with that team. And also, Cole, I was like, he just sort of fits up there. So I feel like as well with, where you got Vrabel and stuff like that as well too up there in that code. But yeah, I was like, I think that his expectations are low. Ben Johnson's is high. Not saying that either one's going to get fired after a year, nothing like that. I just think that their expectations are in different spots. But anyway, do you like any of these hires? Do you even care? Do you think that one situation better than the other one? I actually think that to be honest, I think the Jets is kind of a better situation because I feel like even though they got like some veteran people and some people that's been there, and like, and I'm not saying like, Garrett Wilson wants to win and stuff like that. I was like, you still got a better. I was like, you got a better amount of Play-Doh to mold something. Whereas like the Bears is what they sort of are, and it's like people are expecting this to come out as of Oz. Don't make it a vase. If you get what I'm saying. Anyway, let me know what you think with these hires and the teams and all this other stuff. Until then, peace.